good evening, everyone. And it is just such an incredible pleasure to welcome Saskia Subramanian back to her Bryn Mawr home. So I hope she doesn't mind my saying that she has a home at Bryn Mawr and she will have one forever.
Well, we'll see how the film goes.
Well, it will forever, because I also just heard that now she is the, I hope I'm right about this, she has a very, very major role that she is playing in the Bryn Mawr Alumni Association. So I think we will have her here with us for the very, very long haul. We're especially pleased in the Sociology Department and also on behalf of the Hepburn Center to welcome Saskia here this evening. As many of you know, Saskia was one of our students and graduated from Bryn Mawr in 1988 with a degree in sociology, and I'm really happy to say that I think Saskia only beat Mary here to campus by about 1 year. And I feel very ancient in many, many ways. It was an absolute pleasure to have her in class. We had an opportunity to just walk through the old sociology department corridor. So while we're loving our new digs at Dalton, it was sort of a nice trip down memory lane, I think, for all of us. Saskia has, in many, many ways, however, remained very near and dear to our hearts at Bryn Mawr in this department because she has been a major supporter, along with her husband, of our activities, both in the research end, but particularly in terms of the grants that we're able to give to students as awards in their senior year for their academic excellence and also for their service to the department. Saskia is currently, after she earned her PhD in sociology at Penn, Saskia is currently a research sociologist at UCLA, both affiliated with the Center for Culture and Health at UCLA's Geffen School of Medicine, and she's also a visiting assistant professor in the Women's Studies Department at UCLA. In addition to the fact that she's presenting her film this evening, she's co-authored a book, After the Cure, The Untold Stories of Breast Cancer Survivors, which was published last year by NYU Press. And I just want to say that Saskia is such tremendously living proof that not only is there life after Bryn Mawr, with a sociology degree, but there is really, really, really wonderful life that in fact contributes so much to not only our discipline, but to who we are actually as human beings. So Saskia, thank you so much
What an
for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the bar has been set very high.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you all so much for being here. I won't speak too long, but I just wanted to frame the film a little bit briefly for you so you can understand why we actually came to do this project. I'm a research sociologist, as Mary said, at UCLA. And as one does often when you finish your graduate degree, you wind up working on other people's projects until you kind of establish yourself and so forth. One day I was talking to a colleague who asked me to co-teach her class. She was going to go on medical leave, and she asked me to take over the class for her in women's studies. I didn't know why. I took her out to lunch to thank her for the opportunity, and she told me a story about how she was a breast cancer survivor several years out, that she had had crushing fatigue since about a year after she had finished her treatments. She was convinced it had to do with the chemotherapy and radiation treatment, and her doctors told her it was psychosomatic. They referred her to a psychiatrist who said, "There's nothing wrong with you." But she couldn't get any kind of disability insurance. She's a full professor at UCLA, which is a major institution, and UCLA said, "There's nothing wrong with you. Breast cancer is not disabling." And she said to me, "You know, it would be one thing if it were just me, but I've gone to so many support groups over the years, and I've heard these stories over and over and over again. And I know that this is a real thing, but no one believes me. I wish someone would study it." And it's kind of like a movie in my head. Do you ever have these moments where you like remember them and you think years later, "Oh, what was I thinking?" Out popped from my mouth, "I'll study it." You know, at the time, here I was, a fairly junior researcher, but I was so angry because to me, this represented the history of women's health, that we are hysterics, that we are to be invalidated by medical practitioners, even when we know in our heart of hearts that our bodies are betraying us. So this is a good example of fifth time a charm. I kept writing these grants to different institutions to try to do a small pilot study, and they kept rejecting me. And everybody said the same thing. This is too junior of a researcher, which, okay, I get that. And this is not a real phenomenon. Well, we didn't know that. And so I kept persisting, but I really was getting depressed because you can imagine sending this thing I'm sure you're all familiar with them. I can't say enough nice things about them. They supported me enormously. I was able to do what really was a very large pilot study for a qualitative study. We wound up speaking to 77 women in Los Angeles. Half our sample was African American and half was white. That too is very unusual. Historically, African American women are not well represented in medical studies, period. Certainly not in qualitative studies, and certainly not in breast cancer studies. And their stories are very unique, and you'll see them represented here tonight. So we did our research study, and at the end, I said to myself, who's going to read this? You know, we know something is going on. Even though this isn't, anecdotal evidence, it's still, fairly strong anecdotal evidence. What we could have done is gone on to do an additional research study, which I think and hope we will do in the future. But my immediate concern was to make sure that more people heard these voices. And I really thought long and hard about how we get a vehicle out. When I was a Bryn Mawr undergraduate, all of my wonderful sociology professors who are here employed the use of documentary film. I think it's really powerful. I think there's something about film when you hear people's stories that you resonate with them in ways that you might not if you read a more clinical journal article or if you read a magazine article. And so I thought, I'll do it. Again, the foolishness of the young, but I took a documentary film course at UCLA. I connected with my documentary film professor, who was subsequently laid off from UCLA because we had budget cuts, as we do at a big institution. And she agreed because her mother was a survivor to do the film. My mother also, right around this time, was diagnosed with breast cancer and eventually succumbed to it. The number of people who volunteered their time and energy on this film because they had a mother, a sister, someone whom they loved,